This happened just a few weeks ago. I'm 24 and recently moved to a small Alabama town to take care of my grandmother. She had fallen ill, and I thought maybe some time away from my chaotic life back home would help. The town looked like something out of an old storybook, with weather-beaten wooden houses and endless cotton fields. I settled into my grandmother's quaint but worn cottage, surrounded by family memories and silence. I thought it would be peaceful. I've never stopped thinking about what happened next. On my first night, I lay in bed, listening to the quiet. Then, I heard scratching noises coming from the attic. I thought it was just a mouse. I rolled over, told myself not to worry, and closed my eyes. But the scratching didn't stop. It grew louder, more frantic, and my heart started racing. I lay there, wide awake, trying to convince myself it was all in my head. Over the next few days, things grew stranger. My grandmother's health continued to decline. I had spent years as a nurse's aide, so I knew how to care for her. I checked her temperature, made her soup, and helped her with her medications. Yet, every day, she seemed weaker. Maybe I wasn't doing enough. I began to find odd marks on her skin that looked like insect bites. They didn't make sense. I couldn't figure out why they were there. My stomach twisted at the sight of them. I tried to talk to her about it, but my grandmother only looked at me with a distant expression, as if she was lost in some memory I couldn't reach. Whispers would drift through the house when the wind picked up. I couldn't understand what they were saying, but the sound felt heavy. I thought maybe I was imagining things. I thought about what the townsfolk had said when I first arrived. They warned me of a strange illness affecting children, something they wouldn't elaborate on. I didn't believe in superstition, but I couldn't shake the feeling that there was something wrong. As each night fell, I felt more uneasy. The scratching in the attic became a regular sound. Sometimes, I thought I saw shadows moving in the corners of rooms. I began to question myself. Was I going crazy, or was there something there? My heart was pounding. I needed to know. One night, I stood at the base of the attic stairs. I took a deep breath and put my hand on the first step. I paused. The whispers had stopped. What was up there? I felt cold sweat race down my back. What if I found something? I took another step. It creaked beneath me. I felt trapped between my fear and a need to understand. The scratching turned even more intense, a frantic noise echoing in my ears. I stood frozen. The house felt alive. Then, just as suddenly, silence fell. I opened my mouth to call for my grandmother, but nothing came out. The darkness above whispered secrets no one would tell me. I whispered, "What's up there?" And then, I heard it. A soft voice, barely above a whisper, replied, "You'll wish you hadn't come." The attic door groaned open by itself. Whatever awaited me above was pulling me closer. I took a deep breath and stepped into the attic. The air was stale and heavy, like the inside of an old trunk. Darkness swallowed the room, broken only by the faint moonlight spilling through a small window. I felt my way along the walls, searching for a light switch or a scrap of courage. The scratching quieted to a faint rustle as I moved forward. With every step, I called out for my grandmother, hoping to hear her voice echo back. But there was only silence. That voice from before lingered in my mind. "You'll wish you hadn't come." I shivered. A pile of boxes sat in one corner, dust-covered and forgotten. My heart raced, and I approached them. What could be hiding inside? I managed to shift one of the lighter boxes. It creaked open, releasing a puff of dust into the air. Inside, I found old clothes, yellowed photographs, and trinkets from another time. I rummaged through it, feeling a need to connect with memories of my grandmother's past. Then I noticed a small wooden box, locked and tucked away in the back. My fingers traced its edges, feeling odd carvings that made my skin crawl. I felt a pull, a desperate curiosity. I had to know what was inside. Suddenly, a sound came from above, soft, but unmistakable. I froze, looking up. Was there something else up here? My instincts screamed to leave, to run down the stairs and shut the door behind me. But I was transfixed that I turned back to the locked box. I couldn't help it, I had to know more. I fumbled through my pockets, looking for anything to help me break it open. As I searched, the scratching noise returned. Stronger. Closer. I looked up again, my heart racing, and that's when I saw it. A shadow flitted across the far wall. It moved quickly, darting through the dim light, and I realized it wasn't just a shadow. It was a figure. Something small. Something wrong. Who is there? I called, my voice shaky. The figure paused, hovering just at the edge of the light. I braced myself, ready to lash out or flee. But it didn't come closer. Instead, it pointed toward the locked box. Open it, it whispered, the sound cold and hollow. Why? I managed. The figure tilted its head, and I noticed its eyes wide, unblinking, filled with a deep sadness. It holds the answers. You must open it before it's too late. My pulse raced as I stared at the locked box, then back at the figure. What answers? What was happening to my grandmother? I reached for the box again, my breath quickening. As I pulled at it, I could feel a chill in the air growing stronger. Something terrible was about to unfold. My fingers trembled against the wood. I had to decide. I could walk away. I could leave all of this behind. But a part of me was desperate to understand, to uncover the truth that I heard the rustling grow louder, echoing in my ears. Before I could second-guess myself, I made my choice that I slammed my hand down on the box, and the world around me went dark. I gasped, trying to catch my breath in the darkness. It was suffocating, heavy enough to trap my thoughts. My heart raced, and I could no longer hear the rustling. I felt disoriented, as if I was floating in a void. My mind reeled with confusion. Suddenly, a flash of light ignited around me. I squinted against a kaleidoscope of colors that swirled and danced, like fireflies caught in a storm. The attic transformed before my eyes. Old boxes and dusty furniture faded, replaced by a scene that was simultaneously beautiful and terrifying. I stood in a dimly lit room, its walls lined with shelves filled with books on strange topics: witchcraft, folklore, and old remedies. In the center sat a table, cluttered with jars filled with eerie-looking substances. The light flickered and I felt a chill creep along my spine. There, seated at the table, was a young girl. Her skin was pale as milk, and her hair hung around her face like a curtain. She looked up at me with eyes as deep as coal. "You found it," she said, her voice eerily calm. "The box. Who are you?" I stammered, stepping back, my heart pounding. "I used to be like you," she replied, her fingers tracing the edge of one of the jars. "Curious. Looking for answers. They took me here when no one would help me." "Help you with what?" I asked. The chill in the air reminded me of the figure from the attic, the sense that something was terribly wrong. Her gaze drifted to the jars. I was sick. So sick that the doctors said I was untouchable. They feared what I had. She shivered, and I could see a flicker of pain in her eyes. "But the box holds the truth. It can help you understand." I hesitated. The locked box had summoned me here, but for what purpose? I had questions, but every answer seemed to lead to more confusion and fear. "What do you mean?" The girl leaned closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. "The illness my family couldn't cure, it can be passed on. But if you understand it, you can stop it. You can save yourself." A shudder ran through me. Was she talking about my grandmother? Is my grandma sick? Is that why she suddenly? The light dimmed again, the girl's face exhibiting an expression of warning. "You need to get back. It's coming." Before I could protest, the light enveloped me once more, twisting and pulling until I was ripped away from her world. I stumbled back into the attic, gasping, just as the scratching resumed urgent, chaotic now, as if whatever was making that sound was on the verge of breaking through. I glanced around frantically, searching for the figure, the girl, anything that could make sense of my experience, that is when I saw it. The locked box, slightly ajar, the faintest glow seeping from within. I hesitated, but the rustling became deafening. The urgency mounted. Something wanted me to find out the truth. I could feel it in my bones. I took a deep breath and reached for the box once more. Would I uncover answers or unleash something worse? As I lifted the lid of the box, it felt warm, like a heartbeat beneath my fingers. A wave of energy rushed through me, tinged with something dark. I peered inside, and my heart sank. Nestled among bits of aged fabric and crumbling paper was a small, intricately carved wooden figure. It depicted a girl, eerily similar to the one I had just encountered, clutching a jar in one hand. Suddenly, the scratching intensified, reverberating through the attic. My pulse quickened. I glanced around, but there was only darkness and the pressing weight of the unknown. I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever was making that sound was getting closer. That I swallowed hard and withdrew the figure from the box. The moment I touched it, a rush of memories flooded my mind, images of the girl's pale face, the jars, and the dimly lit room. Panic washed over me. What had I unleashed? You shouldn't have done that. The whisper cut through the silence, thick with dread. I spun around, expecting to see the girl, but it was just shadows shifting. Fear gripped me tighter that I looked back down at the figure in my hand. Had she been waiting for someone to find it? Why did it make me feel so deeply unsettled? The atmosphere changed, becoming charged and heavy with anticipation. That I hurriedly closed the box, but the light within pulsed as if alive, casting strange shapes across the attic walls. The scratching morphed into a scratching and clawing, relentless and menacing. I clutched the figure tightly as I fought to catch my breath. Then, from somewhere deep within the shadows, a low growl echoed, vibrating through the floorboards. I froze. Something was in the house. It wasn't just the box or the girl, it was something far worse, lurking and waiting. Get out. The girl's voice pierced through the darkness again. You need to run. Before I could react, the ceiling creaked, and a large shadow darted across the far wall. I instinctively bolted for the attic door, heart hammering, but something, a shape, dark and monstrous, moved through the space in front of me, blocking my escape. That I stumbled backward, clutching the figure, my breath coming in shallow gasps. The girl's warning still echoed in my mind. Was I meant to confront this creature, or flee from it? Confusion engulfed me, but I knew I couldn't stay. With every ounce of strength, I charged back toward the box, the only thing that seemed to hold answers. I could feel the creature's presence, cold and suffocating. The figure in my hand felt hot against my skin, pulsing in a rhythm that mirrored my racing heart. That I took one last look at the massive shape inching toward me, its eyes glinting in the dim light. What do you want from me? I shouted, fear rising in my throat. Just then, the attic door slammed shut behind me, trapping me in this nightmare. Now, I really had no choice. I had to understand. Gripping the wooden figure, I whispered, "What are you?" But the attic remained silent, as if awaiting my next move. Somehow, I knew whatever would happen next would change everything. I glanced back at the figure in my hand, hoping for answers. But it remained just a carved girl. I squeezed it tighter, desperate for something more. The scratching had shifted to a steady pounding. Whatever was out there was position itself, edging closer. Deep within me, fear battled with curiosity. I felt the tug of the box and wanted to see if there were more secrets hidden inside. But I couldn't risk looking again with that thing lurking nearby. Instead, I took a step closer to the window, hoping to find some escape. The dim light of the attic barely illuminated my surroundings, but I could make out an old trunk tucked away in the corner. It looked just as worn as the rest of the attic, almost like it was waiting for me to discover something. I turned to the box, the figure still warm in my hand, and then back to the trunk. Then the growl transformed into a roar, a guttural sound that rattled my bones. I recoiled and pressed myself against the wall, eyes darting around for a hiding spot. Was I going to be trapped here forever? Trembling, I made the decision. I had to know. If I was going to escape, I might first need to understand what I was dealing with. I took a cautious step toward the trunk, every creak of the floor sending jolts of panic through me. With a lurch of courage, I reached the trunk. It felt heavy, and I struggled with the latch. I paused, remembering the girl's warning. Did I truly want to do this? But curiosity pushed me forward. I yanked the trunk open. Inside was an assortment of old clothes, a few pieces of jewelry, and some yellowing letters. I sifted through the items, each one telling a story from long ago. Then, I found something more: a brass key. A cold wind swept through the attic, making me shiver. My heart raced. I tucked the key into my pocket. Maybe it would unlock something that could help me understand the strange occurrences. Then, suddenly, the room felt different. The silhouette of the creature became clearer, its monstrous shape looming larger. I could almost see the glint of its eyes focused on me, reflecting an insatiable hunger that I turned away from the trunk, facing the creature head-on. "What do you want?" I demanded, my voice shaking. But the growl morphed again, this time into a deep, rumbling laughter that echoed off the walls. I took a step back, the reality of my situation crashing down. I looked down at the box and the figure in my hand. What had I awakened? Did it want the girl? Or was it after me? Suddenly, I spotted a door I hadn't noticed before, slightly ajar on the far wall. It beckoned to me. I had to make a decision quickly. With a final glance back at the creature, I darted toward the door. The key felt heavy in my pocket, as if it carried the weight of 1,000 untold secrets. As I reached for the handle, everything around me fell into silence. I hesitated, that's when I heard it whisper. "Let her go or face the consequences." The voice sent chills down my spine. Who was she? Honeyed moments faded. I was out of time, and something darker was coming for me. I cautiously pushed the door open, heart pounding in my chest. The hinges creaked like they had been unwound for decades. I stepped through, bracing myself for whatever waited beyond. To my surprise, the room was empty, a stark contrast to the ominous energy of the attic that a musty scent filled the air. I scanned the space. It looked like a long-forgotten bedroom, cluttered with dust-covered furniture. Faded wallpaper peeled off the walls, sending small flecks tumbling to the floor. But there was a strange comfort in this silence, an invitation to explore that I took a step further inside. That whisper still echoed in my mind, a persistent reminder of the creature lurking behind me. My back prickled with the feeling of being watched. I had to move quickly. I turned my attention to an antique mirror hanging crooked on the wall. Dust-covered reflections showed me a glimpse of my worried face, hair tousled, eyes wide that I approached, trying to clean a patch with my sleeve. But as I wiped it, I noticed something unsettling. My reflection didn't match my movements. I paused, hand freezing in midair. The girl in the carving lit up in my memory. She had been missing something in her eyes, something almost alive. Was that the key to understanding this? Then I remembered the brass key in my pocket. Could it unlock something in this room? As I scanned the cluttered space for a lock, a shadow flickered at the edge of my vision. I spun around, heart racing. There was nothing there. Just shadows dancing under the flickering light of a single bulb overhead. That I turned back to the mirror. The odd feeling persisted, the reflection growing dimmer. I have to get out of here, I whispered to myself. But then I saw a small door behind me, almost hidden behind a falling curtain. That I approached it, trembling. I hesitated, feeling the cold brass key still nestled in my pocket. What if this was the doorway to answers? Or the path deeper into danger? I couldn't linger. I needed to find out what the key unlocked, what the creature wanted, and who the girl was. The door creaked ominously as I turned the handle. It was locked. I retrieved the key and held it up, its surface gleaming dully in the low light. Would it work? The fear of failure gnawed at me, but there was no turning back now. With a deep breath, I inserted the key into the lock. It fit perfectly. I turned it, and with a grating sound, the door clicked open. My heart pounded. What would I find on the other side? Before I could step through, the whisper returned, louder this time. "Don't leave her." I hesitated, dread washing over me. Was the girl I held in my hand more than just a carving? Did she have a story intertwined with this place? My heart raced as shadows shifted behind me again. The creature was close. I had to choose. Stay and learn more, or confront whatever was waiting. That I took a step into the open doorway, knowing there was no turning back. And that's when I saw it, a flicker of movement in the corner of my eye. I looked up and gasped. The carved girl was glowing. What did that mean? And what did it want from me now? I blinked a few times, trying to convince myself I was seeing things. The carved girl was illuminated, her features sharper as if she were stepping out of the wood. Anxiety snake crawled up my spine. Should I approach her? Or would I just be making things worse? But curiosity propelled me. I took a hesitant step forward toward the glowing figure. What is happening? I breathed, as if she could hear me. As I neared, the light pulsed like a beating heart, and I could hardly make out details. Her smile, her eyes, everything felt alive in that moment. Then the glow flickered, and just as quickly as it appeared, it dimmed. My heart sank. Was this a sign? I reached out, fingers brushing against the cool surface of the doorframe, and the moment I made contact, a rush of memories flooded my mind. Images of a girl laughing in the sun, the joy of playing with friends, and then darkness, shadows seeping in, pushing the light away. I stumbled back, overwhelmed. It was as if I had experienced her memories, but why? A voice quivered in the depths of my mind. You must help her. A sudden noise shattered my thoughts. The unmistakable sound of footsteps echoed outside the door. My intuition screamed that I wasn't alone anymore. Heart thudding, I turned back to the darkened attic room. The whispers now amplified into a cacophony, urging me to decide that I needed to act fast. I couldn't stand still. With desperate determination, I pushed through the small door, leaving the glowing girl behind, and entered a narrow corridor. The wooden walls were close, almost suffocating. I could hear the footsteps getting louder now, closer. Who is there? I shouted, my voice slicing through the stillness, but received only silence in return. I strained to listen, the rhythmic thud of my heart nearly drowning out any other sound. Ahead lay a faint light. I rushed toward it, praying it offered a way out, or at least more answers. But as I turned the corner, the corridor ended in a stairway that led downward into deeper darkness. I hesitated, something inside me screamed that going down was a mistake, then I heard the low rumble of a growl, the sound unmistakably coming from the shadows below. My stomach dropped. The creature. It lurked in the dark below, intent on something I couldn't yet understand. I could still turn back, return to the small room, to the glowing girl, but then my thoughts went back to the whisper. Don't leave her. A sharp chill raced through my veins as suddenly the shadows pooled together, shifting ominously. I decided I had to see this through. If I didn't, who would help the girl? Taking a deep breath, I braced myself and slowly began to descend the stairs. Everything felt heavier, suffocating. A growl erupted louder, echoing off the walls, and I realized I had made my choice. There was no turning back now. Just as I reached the bottom, something tugged at my ankle. I looked down, and my heart nearly stopped. An inky hand emerged from the shadows, gripping me tightly. I had entered a nightmare, and it was just beginning. The hand was cold and slick, seeping with a darkness that sent tremors of fear through me. I tried to shake it off, but it tightened its grip, pulling me closer to the shadow's abyss. Panic clenched in my chest, and I stumbled forward, my foot slipping on the dusty wooden floor. Let go! I shouted, scrambling to gain my footing. But instead of releasing me, the hand yanked harder, dragging me closer to the steps that led deeper into the inky void. I glanced back, my heart racing, praying the creature hadn't fully materialized yet. Then, just as the choking fear reached its peak, a low, guttural growl rumbled through the darkness. It was getting louder, more feral. The grip on my ankle felt like ice. I could almost sense the creature lurking just beyond my view. With a sudden burst of adrenaline, I kicked out and connected with the inky hand. To my shock, it recoiled, releasing me instantly. I stumbled back and regained my balance. My breath came in ragged gasps, and the growl faded slightly, but I knew it wouldn't stay quiet for long, that I needed to move. Heart pounding, I turned back toward the stairs and bolted, climbing quickly, fueled by pure instinct. Each step echoed like a drum, and with every sound, I felt the shadows creeping closer. When I reached the corridor, I pressed my back against the wall, trying to catch my breath. "Think," I murmured to myself. "I can't stay here." The whispers grew louder again, surging in a chaotic symphony. "Help her." The sentiment dug into my chest like a splinter. I had to find the answer. What had happened to her? I fought the urge to flee, forcing my legs to carry me toward the darkened attic. I pushed through the door, and the figure was still there, faintly glowing, but now flickering inconsistently. I reached out, compelled by a strange sense of urgency. "What do you need?" I asked into the silence. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then, the glow brightened just enough to illuminate the contours of her face, her eyes shining with a desperate plea. "I'm trapped," she whispered, her voice soft yet raspy, as if it were formed from the dust in the room. "You have to break the curse." "Curse?" The word hung in the air, heavy with the weight of foreboding. "What curse? How?" Before she could respond, the shadows twisted around me, rising like smoke. The temperature plummeted, and I could sense the presence of the creature drawing near. I glanced back, my heart racing anew. "I can't protect you if I can't even protect myself." Then everything shifted. A loud crash echoed from beneath the floorboards, and the darkness surged toward me, a living thing eager to consume. I barely had time to react before the darkness exploded into a vortex, and from it, a pair of glowing eyes emerged. That I backed away, understanding now that the creature wasn't just a part of this place, it was connected to her. As the realization hit me, the glowing girl turned toward the creature, her face pale. "You are the only one who can stop this," she said urgently. "Stop what?" I yelled, desperation rising in my voice as the creature's growl rumbled louder, filling the space with dread. Then everything went dark. When the darkness swallowed me whole, I felt weightless, as if suspended in nothingness. My heart raced, drowning out all sound, until a piercing shriek cut through the silence. I gasped, suddenly propelled back into the attic, the girl's glow flickering like a dying flame. I staggered forward, clutching my chest. The shadows still danced around us, but the creature, for now, remained hidden. I tried to catch my breath, the cold air wrapping around me like icy fingers. "Where did it go?" I asked, eyes darting around, searching for any sign of movement. I was on edge, bracing myself for the next attack. "It's not gone," she said, her voice trembling. "It's waiting. You need to find the key to the curse. Otherwise, it will consume us both." "Key?" I echoed, confusion mixing with dread. "What kind of key?" Suddenly, I remembered the old trunk I'd seen earlier in the corner of the room. "Is it in there?" I pointed, my instincts taking over. "Yes. Please, you must hurry." Her urgency intensified, her expression pleading. The flickering light from her form dwindled, making her look more like a ghost than the ethereal being I had encountered before. That I rushed to the trunk, each step filled with the weight of dread and desperation. As I knelt before it, I felt a chill creep down my spine. Tentatively, I lifted the rusty latch and flung the lid open. The trunk creaked in protest, revealing a chaotic mix of tattered clothes, aged letters, and what looked like shards of glass. "What am I looking for?" I asked, quickly rummaging through the contents. My fingers brushed against the glass pieces, sharp and dangerous. The girl's faint glow illuminated an object tangled in fabric, a small, ornate key. I snatched it up and held it out, feeling a rush of hope. "Use that," she instructed. "You must find the heart of the curse, the old mirror in the corner. It keeps me imprisoned." My heart dropped. I recalled the dusty, cracked mirror I had seen earlier, hung like a forgotten relic at the far end of the attic. The sensation of dread filled the air again. I glanced over my shoulder, half expecting the creature to lunge at me from the shadows. "Quickly," she urged, her voice rising. In that moment, a chilling howl resonated through the room, vibrating the floor beneath me. Without thinking, I sprinted to the mirror, the key clutched tightly in my hand. My mind raced with questions of how this fragile object could possibly break a curse. I reached the mirror and noticed the surface shimmer, reflecting the glow of the girl's light. That I hesitated, my instincts screaming at me to wait. But time was running out. The growls were closer now, a menacing growl echoing from the depths of the dark. I pressed the key against the cold surface, my hand trembling with fear and determination. Then everything shifted again. The mirror trembled violently as shadows swirled around me. I felt a surge of power as the darkness clawed at the edges of my vision. "Don't stop," the girl urged, her voice barely audible through the chaos. I twisted the key, and the mirror exploded into blinding light. Darkness shrieked, and in that moment, I realized, I had unleashed the truth. Behind me, the creature howled. That's when I saw it, a flash of sinister shapes swirling in the light. Everything changed, and as the light faded, I was left wondering if I had just awakened a greater nightmare. I blinked, heart pounding as the blinding light slowly faded, revealing the attic in disarray. The air felt different, lighter, almost. I looked around, half expecting to see the creature leaping forward from the dark corners. But everything fell eerily silent. The girl's presence lingered, though faint, her glow flickering like a dying candle. "You did it," she breathed, her voice a whisper tangled in the air. I could hardly believe it. I had unlocked something broken through. "What happened?" I asked, catching my breath. "Is it gone? Are you free?" She looked uncertain, sorrow creasing her delicate features. "I don't know. The mirror was a prison, but now, it's complicated." Suddenly, a rustle echoed from behind me. My body tensed, instinct screamed at me to run. The shadows seemed to pulse, the room rippling like water disturbed. "Stay near me," I urged, turning back toward the flickering light. "Not all darkness is evil," she replied, taking a hesitant step closer. "But if it's free now, it could still be watching us. We must leave this space." We moved as one, creeping toward the attic door. I could feel a heaviness behind us, almost like a watchful gaze. The air thickened with unease, and I felt a shiver race down my spine. "What if it comes back?" I asked. "What if it finds us again?" "I don't know," she whispered, and in that moment, something in her eyes shifted. Gone was the unwavering confidence I had seen. "But we can't stay here. You need to look for more answers." "More answers?" I echoed, confusion mixing with fear. "What else could there be? I've just unlocked a mirror, what more is there?" But before she could reply, the shadows behind us stirred, the oppressive weight returning. "Go," she urged, pushing me toward the door. With one last glance back, I bolted down the stairs, adrenaline surging anew. The moment I stepped off the last step, the scratching sound returned, deafening and frantic, as if something was struggling to break free behind me. That I burst into the hallway, breathless. "I need to get out," I cried, sprinting for a window at the end of the corridor. But as I reached it, I realized I had forgotten something essential: the carved figure. "I need to go back," I stammered. "It will be safer with you," she confirmed, her voice softly echoing in my ears. That I hesitated, the weight of my decision pulling at me. But I couldn't risk leaving an anchor behind. "Wait for me," I promised and rushed back to the attic as the floor creaked ominously beneath me, but when I turned the corner to the attic, I saw the creature, or whatever form it had taken, was now nothing more than a shadow dancing along the walls. It stopped, turning toward me, its eyes glinting like two cold stars in the expanse of darkness. "You seek answers," it growled, voice a haunting echo. "But are you ready to face the truth?" I clenched my jaw, the fear tightening around my chest. "What do you want?" I demanded, though I could hear the tremor in my voice. "It holds your fate, and hers," it replied, and for a moment, echoes of the girl flickered in the shadows, her eyes wide, filled with sadness and longing. I rushed back to where I had left the figure, cradling it in my trembling hands. The moment I touched it, warmth surged through my fingers. In that second, everything clicked. She wasn't just a specter of the past or a curse, she had a history entwined with this place, waiting for someone curious enough to break free. The creature's growl grew angrier. "You release what you cannot contain." "I'm not afraid," I shouted back, my voice stronger now, fueled by realization. "I'm here to help." The words felt like a spell breaking. Suddenly, another flash of light came from the mirror, brighter this time, driven by my determination. The creature recoiled as if burned. "You will regret this." "No," I retorted, meeting its gaze. "I will find the truth. I won't let you keep us trapped." In that moment, I understood the key was not just the brass trinket I held, but the connection between the girl, the shadow, and me. Each was a piece of a puzzle that remained unsolved, tangled together across dimensions I couldn't fully comprehend. Part of me still wondered, as I pivoted back toward the door, would I find my grandmother? Would her illness ever have an explanation? But my heart knew one thing: I was determined to escape, to help the girl who lingered between worlds, and to find answers, no matter how dark or twisted they might be. In those chaotic seconds, with everything swirling around me in motion, I stepped toward the door, ready to go into the unknown, feeling both terrified and excited at the journey ahead. There may always be questions left unanswered, but that was the price of seeking the truth. And as I dashed into the light, one thought lingered like a specter: was it truly an illness, or was it merely an echo of something else? A darkness we had yet to confront together. I turned back one last time, sensing something different about the shadows as the door clicked shut behind me, leaving more than just the attic, something far more significant that I may never understand completely. Sometimes the truth is entwined with shadows. And sometimes, you simply have to embrace the uncertainty, running toward whatever waits beyond.